Hello and welcome to History Time. A World Cup is ongoing in cricket. Matches are being played all over the country and also at the M.A. Chidambaram Stadium in Chepauk. It's time for us to see what the history of this stadium is and why it is named after M.A. Chidambaram. Come, let's go to the stadium. Wherever the English went, wherever they took their colonizing enterprises, they took their games also along with them. And cricket followed wherever the English went. The earliest instance of cricket being played in Madras city is from an oil painting of William and Thomas Daniel dating to 1792. And even in that, it doesn't specify Madras, it just says a cricket match in India. But from what we can see, it appears to be somewhere in Guindy in Madras. So that was the earliest instance of the English playing that game here. Later, they began to play it with greater frequency, and we find records of the matches being played at the island grounds and other places. In 1846, the English in the city got together and formed the Madras Cricket Club. The founder was Sir Alexander Arbuthnot, who was then the Chief Secretary of Madras Presidency. Having founded the club, they needed space to play their games. So they made an appeal to the government. And in 1866, the government gave them a piece of land in the Chepauk area next to the Chepauk Palace. That became the home of the Madras Cricket Club. They built a clubhouse for themselves and began to play their matches there. This club was like all other clubs founded by the British in India, exclusively meant for the whites. And so Indians could have never got into it. Indians, however, were greatly enamored of this game that the Sahibs were playing, and they would stand outside the confines of Chepauk and watch what was going on. Gradually, Indians began to play the game themselves. In 1892, we find records of a native team in Madras, which means Indians were playing the game. And then there came the wealthy businessman Buchi Babu Naidu. He spent his own money, imported kits from abroad, and trained a set of Indians to play the game as well as the Englishmen. He founded a club, the Madras United Club, for this purpose in Broadway. And gradually he began to influence the members of the Madras Cricket Club to allow for an Indians versus Europeans match. The club finally accepted. And that was the first time that Indians were being allowed inside the ground at Chepauk. However, they couldn't enter the clubhouse. And so lunch for the Europeans would be in the clubhouse. For the natives, it would be on the ground. The first match was to be played in December 1908, but Buchi Babu died suddenly. And thereafter, the match was held as a tribute to him. Gradually, this natives versus Europeans match would grow and become the famous Pongal matches of Madras. Each year, between January 14th and 18th, a test match would be held here eventually. It grew out of the seed of those Europeans versus Indians matches. Watching this game in Chepauk became a major attraction. Chepauk, however, had no stadium. Each time a match had to be held, a makeshift stadium would come made of casuarina poles with teakwood planks nailed together, and it would fill with the crowds. Each time a wicket fell or a boundary was scored, the audience would stand up and cheer, and the entire structure would sway from side to side. But this is how the game was played. The land, incidentally, was given on lease to the Madras Cricket Club. Gradually, by the 1920s, many Indian clubs began to come up all over Madras Presidency. And in 1927, they all got together and founded what was known as the Madras Cricket Association. Eventually, the Madras Cricket Club too would become a member. But each time a match had to be played in Chepauk, these teams had to apply to the Madras Cricket Club for permission. Without their permission, the ground would not be given, and the Indian teams would have to play elsewhere. The ground was held on lease by the Madras Cricket Club for varying periods of time, and in 1936, the government renewed the lease for a period of 30 years. In between, in 1947, independence came and the British membership of the Madras Cricket Club began to come down in number. Indians began to become members of the club. But still, the club held control of the Chepauk grounds. When the lease was going to expire in 1966, the question arose among the other members of the Madras Cricket Association as to why the Chepauk ground had to be with the Madras Cricket Club. Why could it not be with the Madras Cricket Association? At this time, the president of the Madras Cricket Association was M.A. Chidambaram. He was the third son of Raja Sir Annamalai Chettiar, the great business baron of Chettinad. Chidambaram himself was an industrialist. He founded SPIC, ran several other companies, and was the president, as I said, of the Madras Cricket Association. Chidambaram influenced the government to hand over the new lease to the Madras Cricket Association and not to the Madras Cricket Club. But such was his large-heartedness that he also allowed the Madras Cricket Club to function from the same place. The MCC got 2 acres of land. The rest of the entire vast property was given on lease to the Madras Cricket Association, with the condition that it would build a stadium, a permanent stadium, on the grounds. That was in 1966. And in 1971, on 8th February, the then Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu laid the foundation stone for the new stadium. What happened in the intervening 5 years? Madras Cricket Association found that it needed 1 crore and 75 lakhs to build the stadium. That was big money those days. And cricket associations in India did not have that kind of funding in that era. It was a big question mark as to how the stadium would be built. In between, with the DMK government coming to power in the 1967 elections, the name of the state would change, and from Madras it changed to Tamil Nadu in 1968. Thereafter, the Madras Cricket Association changed its name as well and became the Tamil Nadu Cricket Association. And it was in that capacity that it organized the foundation stone laying ceremony on 8th February 1971. The Chief Minister, M. Karunanidhi, arrived and gave a donation of rupees 15 lakhs from the government for the construction of the new stadium. 1 crore and 75 lakhs was the budget. 15 lakhs came from the government. Mr. M.A. Chidambaram, who was still the president of the TNCA, gave 15 lakhs from his money. That was 30. He then approached the Madras Race Club, of which he was the president, and obtained a further sum of 5 lakhs. So that was 35 lakhs. There was still a gap of 1 crore and 40 lakhs to fund the 1,000 tons of steel and the 7,200 tons of cement that would be required for the construction of the stadium. No bank would be willing to come forward because the TNCA could not offer the Chepauk land as security. It only held it on lease. It was not its own property. Something else had to be done. This is when Mr. M.A. Chidambaram came forward and gave his personal guarantee. And that meant, in the event of the TNCA defaulting on its loans, he would be personally responsible to make good the difference or the default. That was the courage of the man. Thereafter, work began, and by 1973, a significant portion of the Chepauk Stadium was complete. Work, however, would continue in fits and starts and go on till 1981, when the stadium was fully done and finished, and people could come and watch matches in comfort. It had become one among the great stadiums of the world. The Tamil Nadu Cricket Association was jubilant. It wanted to name the stadium after Mr. M.A. Chidambaram in gratitude for all that he had done. But this was not a man who was looking for personal glorification. He refused. For 5 years, he held out. Each time the proposal was brought forward, he would refuse it. And then the TNCA decided it had to act. In 1986, Mr. M.A. Chidambaram had gone to England on a holiday, and they quickly convened a meeting in his absence and passed the resolution that the stadium would be named after him. When he came back, he could do nothing about it. And thereafter, it remained and still remains the M.A. Chidambaram Stadium. Without him, it would have never been completed. The stadium was constructed as per the technology of that era. It was a concrete bowl that kept out the sea breeze, making it extremely humid for players and audiences. And then in 2011, work began on slicing the stadium open so that the sea breeze could come in and lessen the heat in the place. But all of that was only an improvement. The original stadium was M.H. Chidambaram's brainchild, and therefore the stadium still remains in his name. I'll be back with you with more episodes on Chennai's history in the coming weeks. Bye for now.